Namaste. Let us start the class with doing the Shantipatha. So for this week, we will go through the entire set of prayers, including the Dakshinamurti Stotram. And from next week, there is a break between the first part of Dakshinamurti Stotram and the second part of Dakshinamurti Stotram. And so that I will explain later. But today, let us do the entire Parayanam of the Shantipatha, which you have, I think, copies of. I sent it to you. And then for those of you that want to have a phonetic file to practice on, I think there are instructions on the website that you can get that as well. So let's start with that. Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavat Varyama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Yaschandasamrishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyodhyamritaat sambabhuva Samendro medhaya aspranotu Amritasya devadharano bhuyasam Shariram me vicharshanam Jihva me madhumattama Karna abhyam bhuri vishruvam Brahmanaf koshosi medhaya pihitaha Shrutam me gopaya Om Shanti 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 Aham rikshasya reriva Kirtif prishtam gireriva Urdhva pavitro vajiniva swamritamasmi Dravinagum savarchasam Sumedha amritokshitaha Itirtishankor vedanu Om Shanti 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 Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Apyayantu mama angani Vakpranaschakshuhu shrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam brahmopanishadam Maham brahma nirakuryam Mama brahma nirakarot Anirakaranamastu anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaha Te mai santu Om Shanti 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 Vang me manasi pratisthita Mano me vachi pratishthitam Avir ma edhi Vedasya ma ani isthaha Shrutam me ma prahasihi Anenadhitena Ahoratran sandadhami ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यो ब्रह्मानं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणां सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तं तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। अशुभानि निराचष्टे तनोति शुभसन्ततिं स्मृतिमात्रेण यत्पुंसां ब्रह्म तन्मङ्गलं परम् अतिकल्याणरूपत्वात् नित्यकल्याणसंश्रयात् स्मर्तॄणां वरदत्वात् च ब्रह्म तन्मङ्गलं विदुः। ओङ्कारश्चाथ शब्दश्च द्वावेतौ ब्रह्मणः पुरा कण्ठं भित्त्वा विनिर्यातौ तस्मान्माङ्गलिकौ वुभौ ॐ अथ ॐ अथ ॐ अथ। विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनिमायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकम् असत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत्साक्षात्करणात् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नानाच्छिद्रघटोदरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरं ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरणद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते Janamiti tameva bhantam anubhatyet samastam jagat tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Deham pranamapindriyanapi chalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu Stri baland jatopamastwamiti Bhranta bhrisham vadinaha Maya shakti vilasa kalpita maha vyamoha samharine Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Rahu grasta divankarendru sadisho Maya samachhadanat Sanmatra karnopasamharanato Yo bhut sushuptaf puman Pragaswap swamiti prabodha samaye Yapatyabhigyayate Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Balyadishu api jagradadishu tatha Sarvasvavasthasvapi Vyavrittasvanuvartamanamaham Ityantaspurantam sada Swatmanam prakatikaroti bhajatam Yo mudraya bhadraya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Vishwam pashyati karyakaranataya Swaswami sambandhataha Shishyacharya tathaiva pitra putradhyatmana bhedataha Swapne jagrati vaya esha purusho Maya paribhramitaha Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambar maharnartho himam shuf puman Ityabhati characharatmakamidam Yasyaiva murtyashtakam Nanyat kinchana vidyate vimrishatam Yasmat parasmat vibhoho Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Sarvatmatvamiti sputi kritamidam Yasmatamushminstave Tenasya shravanat tadarthamananat Dhyanat cha sankirtanat Sarvatmatva mahavibhuti sahitam Syadishwaratvam swataha Siddhe tat punarashtadha parinatam Chaishwaryam avyahatam Om. I also do prayer to Dakshinamurti. I won't use this as a official part of this prayer, but for my own ones, I do this 11 times. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Shriyam Medham Pragyam Prayachya Swaha. So this was initiated by Swami Dayanandji, and it is chanted in the Sarasburg ashram, and I believe the other ashrams also. So I do that 11 times after finishing up my morning prayers. Okay. Oh, I just wanted to mention one thing about the Trivida Shanti that follows each of the mantras. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. For some reason, which I've never really looked into, but I just follow the tradition without really questioning it. The mantra which says Purnamadah Purnamidam, after that mantra, the Trivida Shanti is pronounced differently. Okay? So, and it's mentioned in it's how we did the swaras that we sent to you. So for all others, the Anudatta is towards Tihi. So anudatta means the lower pitch is on the ending of the shanti. So it goes like this. Om Shanti. You see, it's not Shanti, it's Shanti. And there is a visarga at the end of that. So it goes like this, as you know. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Then at the last one, there is a swarita. Swarita means that it's a higher pitch than the normal. Again, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So this is the one in almost all of them. All of them. With the exception of Purnamadav Purnamidam. So there, the Anudatta is not on Tihi but on Sha. And there is no Swarita on the last one. So it goes like this. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. That's how it goes. I just thought I'll make a note of that for you. Okay, so we had finished the meanings, a brief meaning, not the extensive meaning that is given in the Swami with Maheshananji's very beautiful long book on Dasha Mantras. He gives all the alternatives, emphases, and all kinds of things. So we won't have time to do all of that, and especially it's only in Hindi. And so for those of you that don't know Hindi, and for me to give a class, it almost like has to be a complete course. So we won't have that much detail, but just to give you a brief idea of the various concepts included in these 10 Shanti mantras. We have already gone through the first 7 up to Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mai Santu Te Mai Santu. We finished that last week. So today we will do number 7, 8, 9 and 10. And so let's start with number 7. So this one is from the Aitareya Upanishad in Rig Veda. And so all these 10 Shanti mantras are taken from the variety of Vedas and Upanishads contained in them. It's almost like you are making a garland and you have different flowers from different trees. And they're all consistent, but they provide you something slightly different, some emphasis is slightly different. So Swami Maheshananji pointed out very beautifully. He said that in the 6th mantra, which is Apyayantu Mama Angani, in that the emphasis was, by the way, before I even say that, I mentioned it to you last week that the first 5 mantras, starting with Shanno Mitraha and ending with Purnamadaha, are Sadhya Pradhana. So Sadhya Pradhana means that what is it that I am really looking for? There is a brief explanation of all of them. Then in the second 5 verses, starting with number 7, starting with number 6 that we did last week, it is Sadhana Pradhana, not Sadhya Pradhana. Beautiful, subtle explanation of how the structure of these Dasha mantras are. So anyway, we did that. So we started the Sadhana Pradhana. Now, in talking about Sadhana Pradhana, number 6, Swami Maheshananji says, is pointed towards your sadhana when you are alone. You are not transacting with the society, with the family and friends and other people and so on. None of that. So the Apyayantu was a prayer to Ishvara to say, please strengthen my body, strengthen my indriyas, as we saw that. Now in number 7, which is today, it is not internal, it is external. How? So it is transactional. So it is vyavaharika sattakaha. Vyavaharika sattakaha means one which is pertinent to vyavahara. How? So let's see now. Vang me manasi pratishtita. Vak me mean may my speech. Vak means speech. Manasi pratishtita. May my speech and my thoughts be together. May they be consistent and always work in unison. And we can say that because that doesn't always happen. I mean, if you're talking about, sometimes either a straightaway lie or exaggeration. This is what is given in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter. Amanitvam adambhitvam. So amanitvam is exaggeration, adambhitvam is out and out lie. So here, for example, you can, you internally, I'm just giving you typical examples. Internally you might say, what is this clothing that this person is wearing? What a garish color. Internally. Outside you say, this is a very nice dress that you have on. That means there is no consistency. And who is hurt by that? Who is hurt by that? So it has nothing to do with the outside. So the transactional truth that we are talking about is also for you, not one for somebody else. You can of course hurt somebody else by wrong speech. But here we are talking about consistency of speech and mind so that you are not hurt. How can you not be hurt? What's the problem? So here Swami Dayananji also had said that until you have Advaita within yourself, you cannot have Advaita around the world. This is the problem. So for example, if you don't know who you are you the mind that is criticizing others, or are you the speech which is giving flowery expression to the others? Which one are you? Ultimately, you don't like yourself. You don't trust yourself. I don't know who I am. Am I sometimes like this? I'm a liar. I'm an exaggerator. It hurts you. So anyway, I don't want to go through too much of that. It's not a class for that. But just to underscore, I just wanted to point out a few things. Vang me manasi pratishtita, mano me vachi pratishtita. May the two reside in each other. And in the beginning it might take some effort, but it should become natural, instinctive. When that happens, you are now ready to move ahead. Okay, so Avir Ma'edhi. So Avi means one which is expressed. Actually, there are two different meanings of Avi. One is the short Avi and one is the long E Avi. So Avi means Sakshat Pratyakshat Brahma. This is one Avi. And the second Avi is the expression of that. So the thing is that we are already Brahman. We don't have to argue about that. The question is, do I act as though I am Brahman or not? And we don't. We don't. And so to express my inner understanding of Brahman in the world outside would be called Avir Ma'edhi. Avir Ma'edhi. Okay, then this is one thing. Now the next set of words in this mantra, Vedasyama anisthaha shrutam me ma prahasihi anenadhitena ahoratran sandadhami ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami. All this looking at the grouping. I won't go into the details of each one of them, but I'll give you an overall concept. So there are two things involved. One is, as I mentioned, consistency of transactions with the outside world. Your outside world transaction should be, of course, pleasant and truthful, but also consistent with all of your thoughts and actions and speech. All three of them. This is one thing. So this is one dimension, is your behavior with the world. So that is encapsulated by the word Satyam Vadishyami. The second one. The first one is Ritam Vadishyami. So what is Ritam Vadishyami? I will speak the truth. And Satyam Vadishyami means I will also speak the truth. What is the difference between Ritam and Satyam? Ritam is consistency between what you have learned from the Vedas. What is the Veda saying? Am I following the precepts of the Vedas or Vedanta? Here let's just take Vedanta. You can take general Vedas also, Karma Kanda also. And so to follow the precepts of the Vedas, because it has certain language, certain way of explaining things, certain behavior patterns that it wants you to have in order for you to make progress. Am I doing that or not? So that is the other dimension, which is the consistency between what Veda wants you to do and whether you are doing it. This is one dimension. The other dimension is transactional dimension, whether what you have learned from the Vedas, are you now expressing it consistently with others? So you see, that's the difference between Ritam and Satyam. Both of these are used. So in Taittiriya Upanishad also, Ritam cha swadhyaya pravachane cha satyam cha swadhyaya pravachane cha. So both of them are used, Ritam and Satyam. Anyway, so verse number 7, in summary, as Swami Maheshananji so beautifully pointed out, is based on transactions. Not just your own feelings, but how you transact with the word. Vang me manasi pratisthita. Okay, number 8. Bhadram naha apitaya apivataya manaha. So this is a very short mantra, the shortest mantra in these 10, and it has exactly the same force as the Gayatri mantra. Om Bhut Bhuvaswaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Tiyo Yo Naf Prachodayat. Tiyo Yo Naf Prachodayat. Here it is Bhadram no Apivataya Manaha. And so the meaning of Apivataya and Prachodayat are very similar with slight differences. Prachodayat in the Gayatri mantra says, may, O Lord, may you push me to do the right, to have the right thoughts, to do the right thing. So it is a pushing involved. So that prachodayat means to impel me, to push me. I may not know the right thing to do in my life all the time. May you please back me up and push me in the right direction. So this is the Gayatri mantra. Here Apivataya Manaha is pull me. Slight difference between them, but pulling and pushing. So Apivataya, here the meaning of that, as Swami Maheshananji has explained, is that it means to flow. So may you direct it. Either one, it just means that may my mind be directed towards Bhadram. So Bhadram means, of course, auspiciousness and also prasannata. To have a very pleasant disposition. Slight different. They are all similar, but there is a slight difference. So there are two meanings given to Bhadram. One is just blessing and auspiciousness. May I do the right thing. The second one is, may I do the right thing with prasannata. Not saying, oh my gosh, now I have to do this prayer again. But may I really have the fun and pleasure and do everything with prasanna. Prasanna means to have a pleasant disposition. So bhadram no abhivataya manaha. Then number 9. Bhadram karnebihi shunuyama devaha bhadram pashyema. So in this is just a strengthening and repetition of already what has already been done. So in this one, it is from the Samaveda, I believe. Yes. So Samaveda, and of course the prayers to the various devatas, Yajatraha, Brihaspatihi, Indraha, etc., Vishwavedaha, Pushaha, all of these kinds of different devatas, may you strengthen what I have already started before. So strengthening is an interesting concept. If those of you that might have taken some early lessons on how to bind things together, we used to have a class when I was young on going outside in evenings for a trip somewhere, and you have to bind things. So a single binding is not as strong as a double binding. So this is what is called reef knot. I still remember that, a reef knot. So reef knot is, do you do a double knot? So this is kind of like a double knot. Bhadram karnebihi shunyama devaha. Then the last one, number 10. This is an interesting one. Yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedamscha prahinoti tasmai tagumha devam atma buddhi prakasham mumukshur vai sharana mahapapatye. So this comes from various, more than one Veda, but the one that I briefly looked into, this is from the Shweta Upanishad. Shweta Upanishad, which is part of Krishna Yajurveda. And so there in the 6th, almost towards the end of it, this verse comes. You can see this. Yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo, etc. The reason I'm doing this is because here there is a Shankara Bhashya also on this one directly. So what does Shankara say? We can just very briefly say that as a Bhashya. So he says, Yo Brahmanam iti. Well, I won't translate individually, just to give you a feeling of what Bhashya is saying. Yo Brahmanam hiranyagarbham vidadhati shishtavan purvam sargadau. So now you can say Brahmanam is Hiranyagarbha. He is Hiranyagarbha. So this is Brahmaji, the mental form of Brahmaji. Vidadhati Shishtavan Purvam Sargadau Shishtavan, from the very beginning. Yo vai Vedamscha prahinoti tasmai tagum ha shabdaha avadharane. So there is, tagum ha. What is ha? Avadharane means just as an emphasis, means indeed. Please don't question it. That's the meaning. Please don't question it. Don't say, how was it done in the beginning, this, that, or the other. Is it true? None of that is necessary. Please just trust that. And so let me give you the overall meaning first, then before we go there. So he says, I'll start from the end. Mumukshurvai sharanamaham prapadye. Mukshu means that I am desirous of solving my life's problems for good. I am tired of, and I am recognizing that this piecemeal approach of doing something good for a while until the effect runs out, then I have to do it again and again and again and again. It doesn't sound good to me. Is there a way for me? Is that my life's goal? This is called mumukshu. I want moksha. And for that, I resort for you who has designed the whole thing. Kind of like, you're in the middle of this, in the middle of some kind of a complicated maze and you cannot get out. And then you request someone, you're the one who designed the maze, can you please find a way for me to get out? Yeah, something like that. Sharanamaham prapadye. And who are you praying to? Tagumha Devam. So here Devam means Ishvara itself. What kind of a Devam? Atma Buddhi Prakasham Devam. Ishvara, who is none other than yourself, which is hiding behind your own self. That Ishvara. I am now Sharanam Prapadye. Now, so this is the end. Now let's go back to the other side. He says, I know that you are the one who created Brahmanam. You are the one who created Brahmaji in the beginning of this Kalpa. The beginning of each Kalpa, you create Brahmaji and you impart the knowledge of Vedas to that Brahmaji. So you are the originator. You are the one who started everything. And you are the one I want to resort to. Please help me. This is what it is. So Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam, one who created, in the sense one who visualized. It is already there from the previous Kalpa. But one who visualized waking up to this Kalpa, this is the person that I entrust who will now create the entire Srishti. And then before you do that, Yo Vai Vedamscha Prahinoti Tasmai. So now you imparted what needs to be done. How the various people who do not know the Brahma as well as you do Brahmanam, how they need to be instructed. And so this closes a loop. So your own Ishvara is the one that started the Kalpa, had the Brahmanam be created, instructed Brahmanam regarding what the Vedas message should be, so that the rest of it can also find out, and we find out that it is I am nothing but the very essence of Ishvara. This is a beautiful verse and tough verse, because how does this happen? But anyway, that's how it ends. So anyway, so going back to this, Tamha Shabdaha Avadharane. Tameva Paramatmanam. So tam devam means Paramatmanam means Ishvara. Uktam cha. And then he gives another quotation. Shankaracharya gives a quotation from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Tameva dhiraha vijnaya prajnanam kurvita brahmanaha, etc., etc. And another one from Mundaka Upanishad. Tameva ekam janatha atmanam iti cha. Then he explains Devam Jyotirmayam Atmani ya buddhis tasyaha prasadakaram Paramesh prasannehi parameshware buddhi api tadvishaya pramanish prapancha akara brahma atma nivartate. Goes on with all the commentaries of this. If somebody is interested in understanding what this last mantra is all about, then you can actually go to the Shankara Bhashya and others also for that. Okay. All right. So now, see here, 8:43. I want to really spend some time introducing the main topic, but I think I'll summarize this very quickly, not spend a lot of time on it, not as much as we have done so far. So now the prayers take a turn. Up to now, this is what was called Shanti Patha. So the Dasha Shantayaha, Shanti Patha. And now it is Dhyana Shloka. So one would be Mantraha and one would be Shlokaha. So the difference is that the mantras come from the Vedas themselves. It's called mantra. Mananat trayate iti mantra. By just thinking about it, it protects you, instructs you. This is mantra. Shloka, on the other hand, so mantraha is apaurusheyaha. It is not made by human being. It is made by Parameshwara himself, Paramanandam. But the shlokas are made by human beings. And they consist, so in some way it could be like Shruti versus Smriti. The Upanishads versus Bhagavad Gita, something like that. But the Shruti, which is the shlokas, is also very consistent. It's not as though it's a new thought. But it says the praise of the Shruti, and may I now follow the edict presented by the mantras in the form of the shlokas. So the shlokas are slightly different, but still consistent. And so here I think we've known some of them. Some of them are brand new. Shruti Smriti Purana Nam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. And so this is to Shankaracharya. This is to Shankaracharya. And here in this sense, the Shankaracharya is an avatara of Shiva. And so Bhagavat Padaha Shankaraha. Shankaram means Shamkaroti iti Shankaraha. One which gives you peace of mind is called Shankaraha. So this is where, so for example, we say the word Rama and Krishna. Why are these two so highly regarded in the pantheon of the Hindu culture? Why? Because there, if you look at not the Rudhi Artha, not the popular meaning, but the Vyutpatti Artha. Vyutpatti Artha means one which is, how is it the word Rama and Krishna defined? How is their personality defined? And their personalities and their meanings are both slightly different. In Rama it is Ramante iti Vyamaha, and one which you are delighted by, that is called Rama. So any buddhi vritti which is shanta vritti, where you are just delighted by who you are, you're not looking for anything else, you're just happy, that is called Rama. So they say, may Rama reside in my heart. What it really means is, may my shanta vritti be present all the time. May I not be troubled. This is called Rama. Then Krishna, akarshati iti Krishna, the one that attracts. And so what attracts is Ananda. Really though, everyone is looking for Ananda. Just fun, just pleasure, not just pleasure but peace. So these are the words Rama and Krishna. So here also Shankaram means the one that gives you Bhadram, peace of mind. Just being yourself is called Shankaram. Loka Shankaram means the one who actually imparts it. So Adi Shankara was not only the epitome of wisdom himself, but he made it sure that any wrong thinking around the country and the world actually is corrected, and he established how to learn through the various dhammas. This is called Loka Shankaram. Okay, so this is the one. Now we come to Veda Vyasa in the second one. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam. So Veda Vyasa, who actually wrote the Brahma Sutra that we are going to be studying, is the avatara of Vishnu. Keshavam Badarayanam. And so both of them are connected in this very famous text called the Brahma Sutra. How? So in fact the second line explains that. Sutra Bhashya Kritau. The ones who have done Sutra Bhashya. So here actually there are two meanings to this. Swami Paramarthananda explained this very well. You can say that the second one is also towards Shankara, who is the Bhashya Krita. Bhashya. See, there is no other person whose commentary is called Bhashya. It is so highly regarded that only in the tradition of the Vedic thought, the word Bhashya is only given to Shankara Bhashya, the commentaries of Shankara. So here Swami Paramarthananda says that you can either say Sutra Bhashya. So either you can take Shashti Satpurusha Samasa, Sutrasya Bhashya, iti Sutra Bhashya, Shashti Tatpurusha. Or you can say samasa, which is Sutrascha Bhashyascha. You can both Sutra as well as Bhashya. In that one, you say, and in fact that is more appropriate. Why? Because there is a dual form of Vande Bhagavantau. Bhagavantam, Bhagavantau, Bhagavantaha in Sanskritam. So Bhagavantau means those two. So it should be better to include both of them in this. Both of them how? One did the sutra and the other one did the bhashya. So here in the explanation of this, it says both Shiva and Vishnu together give you an explanation of this text. So this is why what we are studying is not just the Brahma Sutra, but we are studying the Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Because Brahma Sutra is very difficult for us to decipher. You cannot open the keys of it without having someone who can say, this is what it means, this is what it means. So this is why it is Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande. My namaskara to both the avatars of Vishnu and Shiva. It's called Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande. Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Then in the next one, it gives the Santatim. Santatim means how it all started, how it is all carried on. So this Santatim is given. Let me see. Yeah. So the tradition has it that Ishvara gave it to Vishnu first, and then Vishnu instructed Brahmaji next. And then from there it is imparted to the rest of the world. This is how it is given in the tradition of Vedanta. And so Narayanam is Vishnu. Vishnu means Ishvara in the form of a Vishnu. And Padma Bhavam is Brahmaji, Brahmanam, Hiranyagarbha. Padma Bhavam means that, you may have seen the pictures of it, that Brahmaji is born from the navel of Vishnu. It's just a pictorial way of looking at it. So Narayanam Padma Bhavam. Then the whole Santatim started with Padma Bhavam. So from there comes Vasishtam. And most of the earlier ones were connected as a family. Later on it broke off, but in the beginning it was like a familial transcendence. So Narayanam, Padmabhavam, Vasishtam, Shaktim is also the Shishya as well as the son. Tat Putra Parasharam. Parasharam is the Putra of Shaktim. Parasharam's Putra is Vyasam. So it is called Parasharyam. Parasharyam means Parashara's son and Shishya. Then his son is Shukam. So up to this point, all the way starting with Narayanam, there is a familial transcendence. Then that is broken off with Gaudapadam. Gaudapadam these are the all important marks. That's why the recently when we completed the course, we studied the Gaudapada text. So this is Gaudapada is the great grand teacher of Adi Shankara. So the next one mentioned after Shukam is Gaudapadam, Mahantam. His Shishya was Govinda. Sri Govinda was the Shishya of Gaudapadam. Sri Govinda's Shishya was Adi Shankara. And then Adi Shankara had he of course had hundreds of Shishyas, but the four of them that are very famous are Sri Shankaracharyasya Athasya Padmapadam, Hastamalakam, Totakam, and then Sureshwaram, which is called Vartikakaram. So Asmad Gurun Purut Santato Manatosmi. And so from there comes all the teachers right up to what you're listening to even today. So this is the connection all the way. These are not just by books. These are by personal experiences of people on how they were instructed by their guru, who was instructed by their guru. They all started by having a complete ignorance of what is going on, but they were instructed, and then they could see, yes, this is exactly true. And so, Santato Manatosmi, Mayamai Namaskara to that. So with that, I will take the rest of them, I think next time, Ashubhani Nirachaste, because that is, so what we will do, just to finish that off, from next week on, we will chant starting with Shanno Mitraha up to Tam Totakam Vartikakaramanyan Asmat Gurun Santato Manotosmi. So we will do that in the very beginning. Today I noticed we took 15 minutes altogether. So probably 10 minutes up to the Manatosmi. Then we will switch over to the first 5 verses of Dakshinamurti Stotra, starting with Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagarim, ending with Deham Pranam Api Indriyan Api Chalam. So this is how it is done in tradition. I am just following that. Okay? And just to show you, just I took out so when we started the study of Brahma Sutra in with Swami Dayanandji in Piercy. So this was done. This is the first, and I still have absolute copious notes. Each of the adhyayas, each of the chapters I have marked off and so on. This was the first page of the teaching. And it is marked off April 28th of 1982. This is how Swami Dayanandji started, and there were about 65, 70 of us, about the same number in this class, amazingly enough, and we started with this, and I will be following the some of the thoughts that Swami Dayanandji had, even though primarily I'm going to be following Swami Paramarthananda. And Swami Paramarthananda was taught similarly to Swami Dayanandji 2 courses before mine. So he's actually younger than me, but he is senior to me because he got instructed by Swami Dayanandji. And I really like the way he has structured the teaching of Brahma Sutra. And so I'm going to be following his thought patterns more closely than I'm following Swami Dayanandji's. The reason being that Swami Dayanand taught all 65 of us that were very well versed in Sanskritam. And so he could use each of the Bhashya words and translated it word for word. It was very enjoyable. So that is not true for most of you. You know some Sanskritam, but not to the degree that we did in 1982. And so the same thing was happening with Swami Paramarthananda. And so I was not sure whether I could teach this, but he says, yes, you can just give the concepts. So I'm going to follow the methods of Swami Paramarthananda, but every now and then I will go back to Swami Dayanandji's detailed notes from 1982. I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, where are we? I think we are pretty much covered the prayers. I will do the Ashubhani Nirachaste maybe next time. So let us start with the introduction to Brahma Sutra. So even before following the outline that Swami Paramarthananda had given out, let me say a couple of other things. So if you look at the literature of Vedanta, there are many layers to it. Layers in the sense that they are to be imbibed in different ways depending upon our own eligibility and readiness. So there is no question that the Atma Vidya itself is contained in the Vedas. Because the Vedas are perennial. They never really, never atrophy. They might be some of the Vedic, because it was an oral tradition, it's very possible some of it may have been atrophied. But the essence of it never atrophies. Never atrophies. It is always there. This is why the various historians in the world are amazed that you have the great civilizations like the Greek civilization and the Roman civilization that was really well thought through and very complete in this thinking, and relatively complete. They didn't have the Vedantic view, but besides that they had a lot of good philosophy, good basis of thinking and so on. Gets wiped out. Gets wiped out. But the Vedanta and the Vedic, it's kind of like a plant that may bend, but it never breaks. This is there forever. And Ishvara himself makes sure that happens. So despite we had 1,000 years of slavery to non-Vedic thinking, come back again. It's always there. So in this pantheon of Vedic thinking, it is done in several layers. So the first one is the Vedas, the Shruti is number one. And the Shruti is, the thing to understand is apaurushaya, not man-made, not human-made. It is revealed to the human beings, but not created by human beings. So revelation, of course, the other religions say the same thing. But this one is Sanatana Dharma, where there is no origin to it. It is there. It has always been there. So this is the Shruti. Then the next layer is Smriti. So the Smriti means this is now made by human beings based on the teaching of Vedas. And of course, there are two main principal Shrutis. One is called Manusmriti, which is still available in most of its form. And the other one is the Bhagavad Gita, which is very well available. And we know all about that. So that's the Smriti. So then the third one is what is called Sutra literature. So Sutra literature is, so the Sutra literature is not just confined to Brahma Sutra. In fact, all different ways of expressing thoughts were captured in Sutra literature. So, for example, in Sankhya, there is Sankhya Sutra, Yoga Sutra, and sutras were even given in the other forms, like in music, in Ayurveda, and so on. These are all sutras. You know this, maybe. I remember this, I will never forget this. So in 2003, 2003, I had gone to Anaikatti to attend this. In fact, I had notes from there also. I won't bother you with that. So I had notes from Swami Dayanandaji's. He took some portion of the Brahma Sutra and he taught it to all the Swamis that studied under him, and also some of us that also completed the course. So we studied that. In there, I had actually talked to Swami Paramarthananda in great detail, introduced myself, and we had a wonderful chat at that time. This is about 2003. Now, I was having a lot of skin problems at that time. I still do, but it's under control. And it just gets very, very dry, and there's a lot of eczema and so on. So one of my friends, who was a Swami, said, listen, I have a very good Ayurvedic doctor who's visiting, and I can arrange for him to see you. That was a very difficult thing. The only time this doctor would see me was at 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, I got ready, took a shower, went to his house, and he saw my pulse and all that. Then, do you know what he did? He started reciting the Ayurvedic, I don't know if it was shlokas or sutras, I'm not sure, pertinent to the problem that he's found. And he's reciting it by heart. I sat there and just said, oh my God, this is just amazing. So then he says, I know exactly what this is. And he wrote down some medicines for me and so on and so forth. And he says, here, try that. And it really helped. It really helped. So anyways, the sutra literature is not just for Brahma Sutra, it is there and all. And the definition of sutra I will do next time, sometime. Beautiful definition. When you say sutra, you should know exactly what it is. And so we will do all of that. I'm just giving you a general introduction to it. So the third literature is the sutra literature. Okay. The fourth layer of the literature is bhashya literature. And so that is number 4. Number 5th is, or you can include that in number 4, not only bhashya, which as you know is the commentaries ascribed to Adi Shankara only. But you have a number of other literature which is not ascribed to Adi Shankara, which can be called Tika or some other English name for it. So basically commentaries on these things, on Bhagavad Gita, etc. This is another literature. Another then is Puranas. So there are 18 Puranas in the form of stories that are more amenable to be enjoyed by the general public. So the most famous of them, of course, is Bhagavatam, and there are so many others. And so this is another set of literature that is available. Another set of literature that is available is what is called Itihasa. So Itihasa means the historical events that are pertinent to Vedanta. There are historical events that are non-pertinent, but the historical events that are pertinent to Vedanta are called Itihasa. And so the word Itihasa, of course, as you know, it means Iti Ha Asa. So it's interesting, we just saw the etymology of the word Ha in the from the Shvetashvatara. So the Ha means indeed, avadharane, absolutely yes. So means don't even doubt it. Iti ha asa, this is how it was indeed. So this Swami Dayanandaji used to comment on this he would say, a lot of people would ask, Swamiji, was there really a Rama and Sita and Ravana and so on and so forth? Or not? Is it just a made-up story, or should we really... The Swamijis used to say, listen, and this has been corroborated, so Swamiji's ideas were not just his own, but this has been corroborated by lots of... I saw the same explanation by Swami Maheshananji the other day, not the other day, but a couple of years ago, where he said that itihasa means authentic events told in a manner which is understood by people. And Swami Dayanandji used to say this, that this is what is called the classics. The word classic is used for that. And so Swami Dayanandji gave the example of this classic called Ivanhoe in UK, in the United Kingdom. Ivanhoe, you may have seen the movie. I've never read the book Ivanhoe, but I've seen the movie. In those days, we used to see all the movies from college and so on. So this was a movie called Ivanhoe, and I still remember that very well. So Swamiji says Ivanhoe is a classic. What do you mean by a classic? By a classic, it is meant, it is true, but the exact names and characters might be slightly different. Basically, it is true. It is kind of like, you have a play about, supposing you have a play about Gandhiji, a movie about Gandhiji. Yeah, that's a good example. So the very famous movie that was with Richard Attenborough that came about Gandhiji was true. But just to make sure that the story is well told within 2.5 hours, some exaggerations and some things would be done. No problems, because the core of it should be true. So also with the Itihasa. The core of Rama, Sita and Lakshmana was true. No doubt about it. Same thing with Krishna's life. So both Ramayana and Mahabharata are also part of a layer of literature. And the last layer is all these Prakarana Granthas. Prakarana Grantha means one which is given for a particular topic within our Vedanta. Like, for example, Driktrishya Viveka, the very next one that we are going to be doing in about half hour, or Sadhana Panchakam, or Viveka Chudamani. All of these are called Prakarana Granthas. So Prakarana Grantha means that they do not espouse to give you a complete picture, but a section of it which is consistent with what the Vedas are. So one last comment, and I think I'll close the class with that and then continue on with the introduction to Brahma Sutra next time, a more detailed introduction to Brahma Sutra, is the point that what binds all these layers of literature together, what makes them as a group, why is it sensible to group them, is what is called Tatparya Nishchaya. Tatparya Nishchaya. In fact, the very first section of Brahma Sutra, we are going to look into this in great detail. What is meant by Tatparya Nishchaya? The Tatparya Nishchaya means in English the core meaning of all of these pieces of literature. What is the essence of it? It's called Tatparya. And Nishchaya means ascertainment. So the ascertainment of the core meaning of what are they all pointing to? Are they pointing out different things? Or is the end the same? The end is the same. And people don't really believe it, don't understand it, and therefore they question it. And part of the Brahma Sutra is to say no. It's the Tatparya Nishchaya of all the layers is exactly the same. And here Adi Shankara is the one that articulated the Tatparya as Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivaha Brahma Eva Natu Anyatha. This is the Tatparya. In fact, this is the second line of the verse that Adi Shankara says, which says, Ardha Shlokena Pravakshyami Yat Grantha Kotibihi Uchyante. Something like that, I'm not sure the exact one. Ardha Shlokena Pravakshyami Yat Grantha Kotibihi Uchyante. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivaha Brahma Evana tu Anyatha. I think it's not Anyatha, it is some other word, I forget. But anyway, the meaning of that is, I will tell you the central meaning of all the literature in half a verse. So he's taken half a verse to say this. Ardha Shlokena, by half a shloka, Pravakshyami, I will tell you what crores of literature is talking about, which means the core. Means that Brahman alone is true, and what you see around you is just an imposition on it. There is no truth to it. And Jiva is really none other than Brahma itself. This is the Tatparya. Now we know this by now. It's nothing new, but just to underscore, this is how the various layers of literature is talked about. So one other quick thing, the first three, which is Shruti, Smriti and Brahma Sutra, are called Prasthanatraya. So Prasthanatraya means, there's a detailed explanation of this, but in very simple terms it means these are the major highways to reach the identity between Jiva and Brahman. Major highways are called prasthana. So you may have ancillary roads that lead up to it, but really this is a direct course to the end. This is called prasthanatraya. And so this is why this is the last of the prasthanatraya. This is why we insist that you should have had a lot of exposure to Shruti and a lot of very thorough exposure to Bhagavad Gita before you take up Brahma Sutra. Some of you have written that you don't feel you are that qualified, and I think I've also become more mellow in my approach. I feel, and Swami Dayananji was always talking about this. He says, you know what, It's very possible that people may not be qualified completely for a given course, but it just means you will not get as much out of it as you would have if you were qualified. That's up to you. So with that, I've broadened my criteria a little bit, and hopefully we will appeal to each one of you with your understanding, some more than others. Because if you have built a background, then this kind of, anyway, we'll go into the introduction, I won't go there. This mananam will become much more effective for you. So with that, we will continue on with the, so I'll look forward to starting a detailed introduction to Brahma Sutra from next class on. And then once we are finished doing that, then we will actually enter into the Adhyasa Bhashya. And I'll send you a text for it I have not sent yet. I will send it to you in a bulletin, the Bhashya that we are going to be, we are not going to be doing it line by line like Swami Dayanandji, but we will do it conceptually, and occasionally we will do line by line. So this is how it will be. So with that, I'll just say a small prayer and then we will close the class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Yes, Vishwanath, thank you. Yes, na paraha. Jivoho Brahma eva na paraha. Yes, you're right. Thank you for reminding me of that. Gargi Dikshit, Namaskar Vijaji. In the 10th Shanti Mantra, you were using the gum hetam. Can you explain the difference? I have never really understood that myself, I must say that. I think it was mentioned by Swami Dayanandji at one time, but it must not have been that important because it never really registered in my mind. And I look into that, so the gum, the word gum. So it's very possible that this is just a pronunciation edict has no relevance to the meaning. Or it could have some meaning. So I must say I don't remember that, and I'll try to see if I can find something. Gajananam says, do we know who Sri Gaudaparacharya's guru and the parampara prior to that? So Gajananam, I would say this, that there must have been, of course it goes by assumption, because this santatim cannot be broken. It has to have a live guru. But I think what happens is that some gurus just teach and don't compose any text. And some gurus do. So the gurus that compose text are remembered by historians more because they have something to come by. Doesn't mean that others are not as wise, but they never their lifestyle didn't allow them to actually pause and write down what they were teaching. So yeah, there are of course the gurus of Gaudapadacharya Ji's also, but we don't know who they are. Okay, and I think you know this probably, but the Hindus, the Vedic people, are not very fond of preserving history. Not very, we just don't put a lot of emphasis into it. If there are some texts that are useful for us to study, then we remember them. Otherwise, we don't have a sense of exactly what the historical connection is. Yeah. Yes. The Chandra Akara on the thumb part of the text is should be done. The Gumha Evam, etc., etc. Yes, it should be done. Although I've seen some differences between them, so again, it's not that important. Let's see, did I miss any questions? Chris Narayan has talked about Shanti Mantra is from Atharva Veda, Mandukya, Mundaka, Prashna. All these, yes, you're right. Just like the Purusha Suktam and Sahana Vavatu and so on, they occur in various Vedas. Various Vedas. There's a couple of names that I don't know, and if you wouldn't mind sending me an email, I'll put you on the Margin Vegeta. I hope I'm pronouncing your name. That is new. Saishav, okay, that I got that. Okay, well, welcome to a few new people. Thank you so much. And if there's no other questions, I will close and hopefully we'll see you next week. Om.